Chris Cuomo here. Welcome to NewsNation. This is where right and left come to be reasonable, or at least to try. Troubling proposition. Is it do or die for Israel with Democrats, or whatever the left is becoming? The party that first recognized the state of Israel. Remember, Harry Truman was president, Democrat, 1948, when Israel was designated. Are they about to abandon the Holy Land in a time of crisis? A leader of the left is planning a vote tonight or tomorrow that signals such a move. Some context, and even as calls for peace intensified over the years, and rightly so, calls for a two-state solution, for an end to occupation, compromise on settlements, Carter, Clinton, even Obama, the party always supported defending Israel. And it was never anywhere near where it is now, considering pulling support for Israel in terms of, to begin with, offensive weapons in the midst of a war against a terror organization which refuses to surrender or return the people it stole. Now, I'm not surprised that this is happening, because I've been watching the change or the devolution of the party that my father once loved. I would argue that the party he loved is dead and buried, and now zombified as a populist resistance, not unlike how the GOP was consumed by MAGA. Both fringe movements, both motivated by outrage and a desire to punish perceived opponents. Now, among them, on the left, these perceived opponents is Israel, if not Jews altogether. No small irony, the leader calling for this vote is Senator Bernie Sanders, born to Jewish parents in Brooklyn, New York, but now someone who says he is not observant of the faith, manifesting that by leading a vote to stop Israel from getting 1,000-pound bombs and automatic rifles. Now, where is this coming from? Well, if you look at the polls, I think this is only the beginning. A new Gallup poll found only 8% of Democrats support Israel's war in Gaza. Don't be shocked. After October 7th, guess what the number was? It's right there. It was only 36% after October 7th. What does that tell you? This has been a slow, steady, stubborn move away from Israel, and I would argue towards Islamists. Remember in 2021 when AOC voted present instead of no on a vote to stop funding the Iron Dome. She was accused then by the Squad for not being tough enough on Israel. She learned a lesson and is now, like a lot of new lefties, quiet about what jihadis are doing in this country and loud when it comes to accusing Israel of genocide. Now, this move away from Israeli support is more proof of what I believe is our political extremism. I absolutely disagree with the assessment that Israel is conducting a genocide. Why? Well, first of all, I don't even believe the numbers, okay? And that's partly Israel's fault, because they have not allowed free media on the ground there to do the reporting without their stewardship. And that doesn't work for me, it doesn't work for the media, and frankly, I've been too quiet about it. I've talked about it often if you watch the show, but not loudly enough, not often enough, to be honest. The second reason is there was absolutely a specific, intentional identity and identification of killing people because of type. And it was done by Hamas and their allies in Gaza on October 7th. That is what a genocidal and ethnic cleansing looks like. Looking for people of a specific type and killing them with purpose. But it doesn't have to be a genocide to be genuinely inadequate and a complete catastrophe. And that's what Gaza is. This is the truth. The leading international group on food crises just said Gaza is in a worst-case scenario. 4 in 10 are going without food for days. 1 in 3 under the age of 5 suffers from malnutrition. Gaza needs about 500 to 600 trucks of aid every day. They're getting about 100. Why? Well, first of all, we're at war, right? Which is not exactly when you're looking at the best interests of the enemy, right? You're at war. And Israel, in that regard, has made choices, some of them harsh. In March, they cut off all food going into Gaza, mainly food delivered by the United Nations. Why? They said, well, Hamas is stealing all of it. But that is not happening, certainly not enough to justify the deprivation of having only a few aid sites open. Mobs of famished Gazans are overwhelming delivery trucks. So the UN has basically bowed out, even though this is exactly what they're supposed to do. They say it's too dangerous for them. Well, who's creating the danger? The same people you're saying are being ethnically cleansed, but they're too dangerous? These same people who are so victimized are also too dangerous for you to be on the ground around? Because of this chaos, nearly every day, IDF troops end up killing starving Gazans. They are going crazy with hunger. Since the blockade started, more than 1,000 Palestinians have been killed trying to get aid. Now, spare me the BS that Cuomo has seen the light, he finally gets it. No, it's you who don't get it, if you believe that. I have covered the inadequacy of aid. I have covered the deprivation on the ground. And I have called out the concerns from Trump. You want receipts? Knock yourself out. Gaza is a horror show. It's an embarrassment to all humanity. And Israel's biggest mistake to this point, and it's continuing to make it, and even making it more egregiously, is messing with aid. With Israel, aid, several reasons. It's the right thing to do as a moral authority. People are starving. It's bad, and it makes Israel look bad. There is less aid getting in than before October 7th, and there is more need for it than ever. You are making a generation ready for radicalization. Why have I said it consistently? Because my respect for humanity regards the suffering in Gaza as powerfully as it makes me support the Jewish people who are fighting to exist. That's why I support Israel. I support Jews here at home, and I fear for them. And I also fear for the future on the ground in Gaza. That's why I've had multiple people on to discuss the need there. My friend Arwa Damon reporting on the realities in Gaza, pushing her work with her aid organization in Nara. I donated 10 grand of my own money on this show to drive assistance because the truth is enough. And too many are playing with the truth to push an agenda. The numbers are wildly inaccurate of what is happening there. Now, again, part of that is because we don't have enough people on the ground who we can trust to do the counting. But we're also seeing this through the lens of our own political extremism. More and more, everybody has to exaggerate reality for effect of their own agenda. Just look at the New York Times. Last week, they ran a front page picture of this child, Muhammad. He became the face of suffering in Gaza. Proof positive, Israel is committed to killing babies. Look at that kid. Look at his mother. Then reports came out. Muhammad looks like that because he has cerebral palsy. Impacts his appearance. You can see the mother. She doesn't appear malnourished. Neither does the brother. In another photo of the same kid, the same family. Extreme positions. Manipulating reality to advance an agenda or to appease one side. That seems obvious as the New York Times motivation here. How do you know? I'll give you a pro tip about media literacy. You judge somebody's intentions by their corrections. When you mean no harm, you correct the same way you made your initial report. It's not what the New York Times did. With this very damaging and deceptive image that has become the face of the reality in Gaza, they appended their article in a Twitter post, writing, "We have since learned new information, including from the hospital that treated him and his medical records, and have updated our story to add context about his pre-existing health problems." That is a hedge. Someone like me wrote that, a lawyer trying to protect a client. They framed the kid on the front page as someone who was exclusively damaged by Israel, and it's not true. More proof of their perfidy? Did they post that lame correction on the front page? No. On their account with 55 million followers? No. They put it on a PR account which has fewer than 1 million followers. You think that was an accident? The truth should be enough. Gaza needs aid. But this doesn't end the suffering in Gaza. The existential fear in Israel is every bit as real and as dangerous as what is happening in Gaza. And it all continues. It all cannot stop logically or pragmatically until something happens that no one that supports Gaza wants to say in America. Hamas must surrender and return the people they stole. That is when the needle moves towards leverage to make Israel stop. Because you cannot have an entity in power directly across the border that is sworn to the destruction of Israel and think they stop. There needs to be a two-state solution. Hamas must surrender. The good news is that that's not what I'm saying. That is the latest take from Arab countries like Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Egypt. Just came out. Why? Because it is the only thing that makes sense if you're doing anything other than advancing a perverse agenda. That's the only way you ensure that Gaza gets the aid it needs. And it needed to happen yesterday. I am being a fair broker, and too few are. Why? Because there is profit in politicizing the situation. There is advantage in playing one side against the other by appropriating the suffering of Gazans and waving a Palestinian flag and distributing Hamas literature as if they were freedom fighters, or pretending that anything that happens at Israel's hand is okay because of October 7th. These are extreme positions, and extremism is the enemy in the Middle East and here at home.